Okay, so today we're going to do a review of another wheel. This is the VPG, I'll get this name wrong. Just one second here. It's a VPG RSPG PRO. And it's a replica of a Porsche RSR wheel, essentially. Pretty similar to the Grid RSR wheel, which I've also had. It was interesting to compare the two. There's pros and cons to each. But anyway, what I'm going to do is go through my usual stuff of the grips and the buttons, and then I'll probably show a bit of the functionality of SimHub, and happy to answer any questions as we go. So whenever you join, just type some questions in the chat, and we can go over what questions you might have. Okay, so let me bring up the software for SimHub and show you that. Actually, before I do that, let me just start with a quick review of the wheel. So the size is 300 millimeters, which is a great size. Let me start by talking about the grips, and then I'll do shifters and buttons. So the grips, ergonomically, I love the shape of them. They just fit very nicely in your hand. The rounded shape here is nice for when you're in the sharper corners. I find that quite nice to have that curve there. The only problem is because this is fairly short and there's no lip here, your hand can tend to slide off a bit in the corners. But the real reason why that happens more than anything is the material is not as grippy as I would like. It's very smooth. It's not oily, but it's very smooth. It's very hard. But you know, if you compare it to grips like the F-Core or this GSI X29, which is a much softer shore, so it feels softer, but it's not really the hardness of this that's the problem for me. It's the lack of grip. It's just very smooth and very slippery. Yes, I can drive it with hands, but I have to grip that little bit harder. With this grip, I can relax my grip more, and I think that's important. And it's just more grip to it. So to put it in a scale, like if this has a 10 level of grip, this is like a 6. Like there's a fairly substantial difference. I know that's all very subjective, but it's a very substantial difference. I've also had the Cube F Pro wheel. This isn't as bad as that in terms of slipperiness, but you know, if the X29 is a 10 and this is a 6, the F Pro is probably a 4 in terms of slipperiness. So relative scale, that's what I think. Okay, so the by the way, is the music level too loud? Can you hear me okay? Hopefully you can. So the next thing I want to talk about is the shifters. The shifters are really good. They're not too strong. They're not too weak. They're just, for me, the right sweet spot. I did have to do my usual you're good? Okay, thanks, John. I did have to do my usual flip the paddle to the other side just because I like it a little closer for my short fingers. I got wide hands but short fingers. So that worked for me. Anyway, it works quite well. Oh, the other thing is, in terms of shifters, is, I don't know if you can see this. Is that light okay? There we go. There's some light. So there's the clutch, and there's two, obviously. And on each side, there's the shifters. And then there's also another paddle up here, which you can use as a shifter. Or you can use it to set brake bias, whatever you want. It's just another switch. I haven't decided what I'm going to use it for, but we'll see how that goes. But anyway, coming back to the grips, very comfortable ergonomically. Just they, in my opinion, they're too slippery, and I wish it was the same material that was in the F Core or in the X29. That to me is a far grippier, far better material. But shifters are great, and sorry, hey, can't read that. What does that say? Alex. Oh, okay. How you doing, Alex? Good to see you, man. Um, uh, moving on to the buttons. They feel good. Probably not quite as good as the, not as good as the X29. By the way, I'm really loving this X29. Like, there's only one thing I don't like about this X29, but the buttons are really good. But these are fine. Oops, I guess what am I doing here? Let me get in the car. So, by the way, there's a nice startup sequence on the buttons when you start the car. You'll watch it here. Here, let me go. Yeah, you'll see it when I get in the car. You'll see it go through its startup sequence. That's just programmed in SimHub. And I'll come back to SimHub in a minute. Anyway, the button fields are quite good. These buttons here are their white cap versions. And I'll admit that I got caught out and confused by their white caps versus their colored caps. Anyway, the bottom line is that the white caps, they can only be white. They cannot be colored in any way. So the LED behind them is white. When they were talking about white caps versus color caps, I thought it was just the color of the cap that was changing, not the LEDs behind them. So I should have asked more questions when I ordered it, but at the end of the day, you can get them with color, individual colors, or you can get them in white. I think you can get them in blue too. The center rotaries, I can control the color in SimHub, but this is either white on or off. The rotaries, there's 4 here, 2 here, 2 here, and then all these. So I guess 8 in total. I like the resistance on them, or the detents on them. They're not, like, compared to the grid one. The grid one was really quite stiff. I don't know why that keeps resetting stuff on me. Because I'm not in the car, so I don't know why it keeps doing. Oh, anyway, it doesn't matter. So the rotaries are good. They're a good amount of resistance, and because they're big, I think in diameter, I think you can control how much you're spinning them, and I quite like that. There is it's hard to see, but there's a center little. It's not even a full funky switch because you can't rotate it, but you can push it, and you can move it up, which is what I have it set to ignition. Turn the ignition back on, and I hit start to start the car. And then left and right, and I use the left here. It should work. I don't know why it's not working. Anyway, it's supposed to get rid of the dash on the screen because I have the same dash here as I do there. It used to work. I don't know why it's not now. Anyway, so that's the rotaries, buttons, and these feel fine. They're a bit light, but they're fine. I probably won't use them that much. I'll use these rotaries more than anything else. And let's talk about the SimHub now. So let's go back into SimHub here. And I'm just going to get rid of this so the dash isn't covered. So it was interesting when I got the wheel and I downloaded and I selected their, I should show you the desktop view. I selected their wheel here. The profiles that came for the LEDs and the buttons didn't really do much, and I couldn't figure out why. for whatever reason, their profiles don't really work very well. I was able to create my own profiles and get the LEDs to work for the RPM. And initially, I thought it was because I was driving the 296 Ferrari, and there was no profile in the SimHub configuration for the Ferrari. But then I tried two other cars, like the BMW and the Porsche, and the same thing. None of them worked. So I don't think it's just the cars aren't added to their profiles. But I was able to simply add my own version of it. As you can see here, RPM effect. And the way I've set up the RPM is maybe a bit different than some, but I started at 80, call it 80% to 100%. On the left side, I'd start for 4 positions, go 5, and then I start the next one below and start at 9 and go 5. But I do reverse right to left, so that way they come to the center. I don't allow the ones on the side here to be part of the RPM. I use that for ABS. So for example, when I hit ABS, you can see them flashing. The other thing I do is when I hit ABS, I disable the RPM so that the ABS doesn't get lost in whatever flashing is happening in the RPM as I downshift into a corner. So this way I know I'm in the ABS because it's the only thing that's flashing. And it's very different looking than this. So for example, if I was moving the RPMs up and I hit the red line, that's flashing, and then it would, if I didn't get rid of that, then it would be harder to see the ABS. So that's why I did it that way. I mean, obviously everybody has their own approach. The car left, car right was also interesting because these oh yeah, so the car left, car right I did with the LEDs, but what I wanted to show you was this. I wanted the right and left banks of buttons to flash when there's a car to the right. I want these to flash, this car to the left, I want those to flash. But because I chose the white caps and it's only white, I can't use color to do that. So what I did was, here's the car right one. Let me open up the test editor. And car right. So what I do is I flash. When there is a car right, I make it blink to black. So it was already on normally, and then all I'm doing is I'm just turning them off, and that way I can see it black. But for example, if I change this to, I don't know, yellow. Oops, that's car left. So let me go back, change that to black just to be consistent here. So again, I'm on the right here. If I change this to yellow and I go car right, you won't see a flash. If I change it to black, you will see a flash because I'm turning it off. So that took me a while to figure out. But their profiles don't do this for you. You have to kind of play around with it. Is it hard to figure out? No, it's not hard to figure out. Is it annoying? No. But just be aware that their profiles don't work natively out of the gate like most wheels I've used. They have decent profiles, like the grid ones have used their profiles and all the functions work, and then you just tweak them. But this one I had to figure out, well, why isn't it working, and make it work. Anyway, so at the end of the day, I can get the buttons to do what I want. And I also, when I'm in ABS, by the way, I make the center flash, as you can see here. So I've got these flashing blue and these flashing red. I should maybe change that to blue or turn it off or do something different. But anyway, those are the things I've done. So let's talk about its driving feel, because this is really important and the reason why we get a wheel. The weight of this, by the way, I weighed it, and it's not much heavier than my Asher wheel. And now when I'm weighing this, I am weighing it with let me go back to this one. I'm weighing it with the extension. So it comes with a extension, by the way, which is 2 carbon plates. I don't know if you can see that. Yeah, there you go. The carbon plates with little aluminum stilts. So this extension's a lot lighter than the extension that I have on my other wheels. So in contrast, on my X29, I've got the GSI extension, and on the Asher one, I have my GSI extension as well. The reason why I'm mentioning that extension is because this one's lighter, so the overall wheel, including the extension and the SimuCube quick adapter, was 23 or 2200 grams. Somewhere it was within 100 grams of that. It was about 100 grams less than, it was 23, and the Asher was 22. So, and the X29, including all the hub and the extension, was 17, and my F-core was 15. So the F-core is quite a bit lighter. Why does all that matter? Well, the mass of the wheel has an impact on the force feedback you feel. And the greater the mass of the wheel, the more energy it takes to turn it. So you don't feel as much detail, and the car feels a bit more numb. So the heavier the wheel, the more numb the car feels, the less feel you have. And that was my only complaint I had about the grid RSR wheel I had, which was that the wheel was, in my opinion, too heavy, and so it felt like it dumbed down the force feedback too much. This wheel is lighter. I don't have the numbers, but I can tell you it's lighter than the grid based on what I had before versus this. I mean, this is basically only 100 grams more than my Asher, and my Asher was quite a bit lighter than the grid one. So that's why I know the grid one was more. Anyway, however, the one thing that's important to this is that because this extension is those two carbon plates and the aluminum stilts, which is quite a bit lighter, that means that the weight is actually in the wheel and not in the hub like it was when I had the grid and my other ones. So, you still have a fair amount of rotating weight to overcome. So I did initially think, I don't like the feel of this, but then I tweaked my SimuCube settings, and I got rid of some inertia and I increased the dampening. Because honestly, before I did that, it felt like I had a broken steering shaft. Like it felt like it was loose. And so at the end of the day, I felt that by reducing the inertia and adding some dampening, it made it a bit better. Anyway, so from a driving point of view, it's quite nice. You can see it. The wheel lights up nicely when I got the pit limiter on, and it does what you expect in terms of the LEDs now at the top. So when I get to the red line, it does what you expect. And then I've also got my own dash that I designed in here, which turns red when I hit red line. And when I hit ABS, you'll see it lock up there. So it does all the things I want. From a field point of view, I'm getting used to it. I do need to really drive this with gloves, because if I don't, it's just, I got to grip too hard. And it feels like I got oil in my hands, which I don't any more than the other wheels. But it's a good feel. The wheel looks really nice. Like, I love the look of this wheel. It's my favorite looking wheel. And, it's a good value. It's not as expensive as the grid. I think it's, I think it's what, $500 cheaper than the grid, something like that. You guys would have to do your own research, but that's what I remember. I could be wrong on that. Anyway, so that's kind of my thoughts on it. Any questions you guys might have? Well, before I wrap this up, I just thought I'd do a quick review, and if you guys have any questions, I'm happy to answer them. Did my music stop? No, it's still there. Anyway, if no questions, then I'll wrap up the... Hey, Alex, thanks. I appreciate, by the way, your comment. If no more questions... Oh, how are the clutches compared to the Asher? The Asher still are my favorite, but these are good. I'll show you. I'll do a launch. Oh, it took a bit to figure out how to do the configuration. But I eventually got it figured out. You got to hold this button in for like 5 seconds, and then use the LEDs to figure out where your bite point is. But anyway, it works well enough. Like it's not like the F Core was the one that's hard to drive from a clutch point of view. This one here, you can modulate it well, which is the only important thing, in my view. It feels like there's more resistance to pull the clutches than the Asher from a feel point of view, but I don't think that's really important. I think what's most important is that engagement part. And the engagement part is quite good. So, it works well. So, I don't know what I'm going to do with this wheel. I mean, I love the wheel, except for the damn grips. Like, and the grips feel good. They're just, like, shape-wise. But, man, why not put a grippier material in there when there's clearly better options out there? Just so frustrating. But I mean, with gloves, it's livable. Now, when I wear the gloves, what I notice is, can you see that? I don't know. It's probably not good enough lighting. But my thumb pushes up against the rotary dial, and when in the tight corners here, like if I'm turning left, my thumb ends up getting stuck between the grip and here, because there's not a lot of room there, and it's just natural your hand's pulling down. So you could twist your, like if you got hit by a car at this point and your thumb's lodged in there, it's gonna hurt. I'm sorry. Sylvia, you need to take away Twitch from him. That's what you need to do. But John, you should come over and try this wheel. It's nice. You can try them all, or wait for my Bavarian to arrive and try all of them in one shot. But I like it, and the more I use it, the more I'm liking it. Thanks, Martin. Thanks. Yeah, I know. That's what I'm here for. But I do like it, and it looks cool. And from a force feedback point of view, I was able to dial it in to a way that I like. The ergonomics and the grips are good enough that with gloves, the grip is fine. I would prefer to have different material, but, you know, like the material on the grid wheel was better, but the weight on this one's better, and I think the weight is probably the more important thing. Maybe. I don't know. Obviously subjective. Any other questions? Besides, you know, poor Sylvia? All these videos tend to cost her money. I wouldn't be doing my job if I didn't cost you money, Sylvia. That's what men do, is they cost wives money. So there you go. Anyway, any other questions? I'm sorry, Sylvia. I really am. But I like it. Buttons are good. Clutches are decent. Shifters are really good. Oh, is it touchscreen? I don't know. I'd probably haven't. If it is, I haven't set it up to do anything. I don't think it is. It's probably a spec available on their website, but I'm pretty sure it's not. The build quality is really good. I think it looks stunning, and I guess that's about it. Anyway, I don't want to make this too long, and I'll probably post this up on YouTube, and